All right. I call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this Tuesday, April 6, 2021 at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It is now 6 p.m. Would you join us for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I hope it continues. All right, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
All right, you second?
Sure. Second.
Lynn seconds. Pro Tem motion. All right. And next we have a resolution thanking citizens, businesses, and town of Kitty Hawk employees for their help during the pandemic and declaring thanks Outer Banks, a week of gratitude. I'm going to read the resolution, and then if you want to speak, you're welcome to do so. It's a resolution thanking citizens, businesses, and Kitty Hawk employees for their help during the pandemic and declaring thanks Outer Banks, a week of gratitude. Whereas the Outer Banks has a 434-year history of resilience and strength coupled with a powerful sense of community. And whereas the world has suffered a horrible pandemic with over 500,000 people dying from COVID in the United States alone, and whereas Dare County has not been spared the ravages of the pandemic to our personal health, to our personal lives, our lifestyles, and to our economy, and whereas vaccines are now being provided that give us hope for our future health and well-being, and whereas the Outer Banks has pulled through together from families to first responders to frontline workers to medical facilities with courage, compassion, and strength to get past the worst of the pandemic, now therefore it be resolved that the Kitty Hawk Town Council does hereby declare May 9th through 15, 2021 as Thanks Outer Banks, a week of gratitude, and urges all citizens and businesses to participate to show their gratitude. And be it further resolved that Kitty Hawk Town officials and employees are encouraged to support the efforts of Thanks Outer Banks, showing the town's gratitude to our employees and citizens. It will be adopted by the Kitty Hawk Town Council this 6th day of April 2021. Do I hear a motion to adopt this resolution?
Motion to approve.
All right, do I hear a second? All right, Lynn seconded, and David made the motion. It's done. Do you want to speak?
No, thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I want to add, while we're talking about things like this, the Dare County Health Department has done one hell of a job. They really have.
Yeah.
They have fought, you may not know this, but I know it from the meetings that we've had. They have fought to get the vaccine here. They have done an outstanding job of stepping up and how they deliver it and how it's set up. And they've had help. There's no question that they've had help from every other part, the management department and all the rest of them. So I'll just take this opportunity to say special thank you to all those people that did all of that work too. It goes along with this resolution. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Mayor.
All right, Jeff made the motion. Who seconded?
Second.
All right, Pro Tem second. All right. We had no items removed. Next we have,
Got to vote.
oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Trying to get out of here. Opposed? There are none. Thank you. Thanks, Lynn. Public hearing. All right. Text amendment, section 42502, temporary uses, outdoor events, and so forth. Do I hear a motion to go into public hearing for this particular hearing?
Motion to go into public hearing, Mr. Mayor.
Does have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We're now in public hearing. We had no objection.
All right. As you noted, this one is for section 42-502 and section 18-11. The text amendment deals with temporary signage that's associated with temporary uses and outdoor events and gatherings. You can see in the staff report, the proposed text changes are written out in there. How it came about is, I guess, this past winter, the town started receiving a number of calls concerning the number and location of temporary signage used in conjunction with some temporary uses like the Christmas tree sales. The proposed text amendments to chapters 42 and 18 set specific limitations and regulations in place that would make it easier for the code enforcement officer to ensure compliance from the temporary uses. The signage permitted for temporary uses listed under 42-502 are limited to one banner up to 36 square feet in size, as well as one sign up to 16 square feet in size per every 25 feet of road frontage utilized by the temporary use, with an upper limit of 4 16 square foot signs. Additionally, it states in the language that no temporary signage will encroach into any public right-of-way. That wasn't permitted before, but it wasn't written in the ordinance, and now it just makes it easier to point to those temporary uses that they can't do that. Additionally, the temporary uses that are permitted as an outdoor gathering or outdoor event, such as the bike week that we have every year, will allow a total of 250 square feet of signage for outdoor gatherings or events with more than one vendor. Each vendor within the event is permitted signage at their point of sale. The events are also permitted 1 16 square foot sign per 25 feet of road frontage, again limited to 4. Single vendor outdoor gatherings are permitted 1 36 square foot temporary banner, as well as the 16 square feet signs along the road frontage. Additional language is provided for the removal of the signage at the end of each day and the placement of temporary signage, again, not in the right of way. That's really all I've got for that one. So if there's any questions.
Council, anybody got a question before I ask for any public hearing?
No, sir.
All right, is anyone signed up?
No, sir.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak? All right, I have one question. The additional signage, in addition to the 250 square feet, 4 signs per lot. Why do they need so many signs?
That was just I guess the number that was come up with, allowing them to get their visibility, but not having them litter the entire frontage of the parcel like it has been previously. If the council feels that that's too many, then we can.
Okay, well, I mean,
Easily
they had
reduce
it littered, there must have been a dozen or more.
Yeah. So the way this is written, the one sign per 25 feet of road frontage for a 100-foot lot, you could have up to 4. If you had less than 100 feet of frontage, you'd be limited to 3 or less, depending on how much
Okay.
frontage you'd have.
All right, well, it's better, for me, it's better than it was, for sure. Anybody else? Yes.
We need to see if there's anybody on the phone that wishes.
Please
to
do.
participate.
All participants have been unmuted.
Is there anyone on the phone who would like to participate in the public hearing?
All right, let the record show no one
Have been muted.
No one did. Council, any more questions?
No,
sir.
All right, then I ask for a motion to go back in regular session.
Motion to go back in regular session.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Council, what do you want to do?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed text amendments to Section 42-502 and Section 18-11, setting specific regulations and limitations for temporary signage associated with temporary uses and outdoor gatherings and events. Town Council has found this proposal to be consistent with the town's adopted land use plan.
All right, do you have a second?
Lynn.
Lynn, second?
Sure. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right. The next thing we have on the agenda is a text amendment for Chapter 38, subdivision, Chapter 42 zoning. And there are several things in here, and as Rob will tell us, this is mandated by the state, so we don't really have a lot of choice. All right, council, our motion to go into hearing?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
Jeff seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. You're up.
All right. As mentioned, this is for the new Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes. The state adopted this in 2019, and under the new Chapter 160D, current city and county enabling statutes from Chapters 153A and 160A are being consolidated into a single chapter. Also includes related statutes that were previously spread throughout the general statutes. As such, the town zoning ordinance must be amended to be consistent with the new Chapter 160D. In the staff report, I've kind of highlighted all the different changes and attached kind of a summary of the different language. I'm not going to go through all of it because a lot of it's minor stuff, changing the reference from 160A to 160D, and changing conditional use permits to special use permits, stuff like that. But I'll highlight some of the more significant changes, I guess, and if there's any questions, we can get back to it. I'll also note that 160D does require each locality to keep a reasonably maintained comprehensive plan. It has been determined that CAMA future land use plans can be considered the comprehensive plan, and there is no exact definition as to what constitutes reasonably maintained within 160D, but the guidance we've gotten from the UNC School of Government suggests that the plan should be reviewed and/or updated every 5 to 10 years. Our current CAMA land use plan was from 2004, so we'll probably need to at least review it I think by summer of 2022, we have to have that done. I believe that could be as much as council reviewing it and say this is still applicable, this is still what we want, and considering it maintained, or we can move further into doing a full update, but we can get into that later on. So for some of the more significant changes from the 160D, we've added definitions for minor and major modifications. Currently, for commercial site plans and special use permits, currently our zoning ordinance allows staff to administratively approve minor site plan modifications, but it's kind of up to my judgment what constitutes a minor site plan amendment or minor modification. 160D continues to allow for the minor administrative minor site plan approval, but the ordinance has to specifically define what is a minor amendment. That way it's not a judgment call anymore, so it'll be a little easier on me trying to make that decision. Additionally, section 42-40 added language that the town council can act on zoning amendments without the recommendation from the planning board if that recommendation has not been received within 30 days of referral of the amendment to the board. So if there's some pressing text amendment matter and the planning board tables it, and council really feels like they need to move on it, after 30 days, you don't have to wait for the planning board recommendation anymore. Section 42-95 codifies what are deemed as conflicts of interest for town council, appointed boards, administrative staff, and the language that I put in there, I just took it straight from the 160D and plugged it right into our ordinance, so there shouldn't be any question of whether it's compliant with it or not. And those are the ones I really felt like I should highlight. If council has any questions of some of the other ones that are listed in there, I'd be happy to get into more detail about it. But as you mentioned, this is stuff that kind of has to be done. The School of Government, they did put together a pretty nice checklist for different town staffs to use. The 160D included, the checklist included everything that had to be done, which is everything that I've given you tonight. It also highlighted some things that the localities are now allowed to do, but not necessarily required to do, and then some other things just to be aware of. And I believe I emailed that out some time back. So I figured For now, we get what we have to do done, and if council wants to address any of the stuff that we're allowed to do but not required, we can come back to that at a later date.
Okay. All right. It is pretty, and there's more that's been, another bill that's been put in, that would overlay on this too, if I understand it correctly.
Yes, that was filed about 10 or 11 days ago. That would change 160D, what's already been approved. And if that gets approved, there'll be some more changes that we'll have to make to our residential zones.
Yeah, and you've not heard anything on that?
I don't know the status of it at this point.
Okay, because that would mandate ADUs. We have those, but it mandates where they can be placed and some things.
Right, I think it essentially said that any single-family residence has to be allowed to have at least one accessory dwelling unit, which I think the way ours is written, we currently allow. The one part that might impact it is that it says it will not be subject to any additional parking requirements, and the way ours is currently written has one additional parking space for an ADU, so we might have to take that out.
Okay.
I think the bigger impact to our zoning ordinance would be, it creates a definition for middle housing, which they define as duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and townhomes. And they will be, if this gets approved as was filed, they would have to be allowed in every residential zone.
And that's the reason I ask you the question, even though it's not part of what we're doing. If it becomes a part of it, that's a big issue, so, all right. Council, any questions before I call for?
No, sir.
All right. Anyone signed up?
No one signed up. Check the telephone number.
All right.
All participants have been unmuted.
Anyone wish to participate in the public hearing?
Let the record show no one responded.
All participants have been muted.
All right. Council, before I go back into regular session, any other questions now?
No, sir.
No? All right. Do I hear a motion to go back in regular session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Council, what do you want to do? We don't have much choice.
Do we do?
Do you have a motion before you? As
Do we?
far as- Huh?
No.
All right, then I motion to approve this text amendment, Chapter 160D, as presented to council here tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That was a simple way to do it.
Thank you.
Okay. So next we have a request for waiver of building fees. And I'll read what the gist of this is all about. Earlier this year, a local Kitty Hawk teen was injured in a car accident. If you've followed The Voice, you followed that particular event. The family anticipates that she will be coming home from the hospital in approximately 1 month. As such, the family is planning some remodeling work to the house to make things more accessible. Staff has received a request from the contractor working with the family to waive the associated building permit fees. Based on the cost estimates provided for the proposed work to be done, building permit fees would be approximately $350. So if waiving the permit fee is sought, the following motion can be used. Do I hear a motion for this?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Any discussion before the motion? No? Go ahead and make the motion.
Make a motion to waive the building permit fee at 5121 Locust Court for proposed improvements as described to the planning department staff. Waiver does not include additional unrelated improvement/permit fees.
Second.
Second? All right, and we've done this many times during storms for hurricane only, or for storm damage related stuff. Anything beyond that, no. And that's what this is going to do. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right, thank you.
That is definitely the
Thank
right thing to do for this family.
Yes, sir.
100%.
All right. Town manager took off for places unknown. This was his week with his kids, and he went to Florida, along with a whole bunch of other people. I think the whole world's moving to Florida. So, Melody, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay. You're doing a good job, though.
Oh, yeah, I think press the 9 times.
All right, Mr. Town Attorney. Nothing? All right. It's Town Council, and Council, I'm going to start tonight, okay? Because I need to update you on some things. I want to move over here. I can do that. Let's see if I can get the right place. This
No,
right one?
to the left.
To the left. Oh, that's
That's it.
You got it?
there we go.
Click on the P on the taskbar on the right,
That?
the PowerPoint.
Oh, there it went. I got it. I got it. Okay.
And then slideshow. And drop that down up at the top menu, slideshow.
I can't hear you.
Slideshow.
Huh?
Slideshow.
And then from the beginning. And just hit enter.
All right, here's the deal, folks. First off, the crossover. I checked with the town engineer, and the MOU, an MOU that the town can live with regard to biking and how the trails can be used and how the management can be taken care of in concert with the state conservation staff has been reached and signed. A contract has been signed to actually build the crossover. The engineer, coastal staff, representative, county park staff, because we're hooked on to Kitty Hawk Park. And they'll lay out a path tomorrow with the contractor. So that'll be underway starting tomorrow. And then the contractor will be actually starting work Monday if all goes well, the way it's supposed to happen. So now what I want to address is bike and path and management. And Jeff and I, that's Jeff in the picture, back picture, probably a good looking back picture. Anyway, we went out and looked at what the conservation folks were concerned about, and we're concerned about it too. I've made all the council aware of what's going on. This is what's not going to be allowed on Kitty Hawk land or anywhere in the conservation zone. People are going out here, in this particular case, what you're looking at is they've either used chainsaws or axes or something, and they've hewed off pieces of this so they could make ramp jump overs of logs and things of that nature. That's what you're looking at. This is not exactly a natural trail setting. This is a kind of a teeter-tot thing. Now this is on private property, so this is not what they were fussing about, but we looked at both pieces, private and what the state owned. And I guess they ride up on this, it tips over, and then they keep on going. Again, it's not something that's envisioned for anything that we, the council, and management of town property is looking for. These are 3 ramps on a very, very steep hill. I mean, if you come off of that hill on those ramps, you're flying, literally flying. Again, private property. But this is not what the trail management and conservation land is about. And I'm trying to bring this to your attention. If people think this is what we're going to allow, this is not what we were looking at. Digging holes. The sand removed from here was to build a ramp over the logs that you see laying here that were put in place to build a ramp, basically in a place where it didn't have a hill to jump. That's dangerous. The town has certain liability, conservation staff has certain liability, and these things, if you leave a hole here, and that's right in the path. So if you miss the jump and you fall in the hole, oh, there's all kinds of things that are not right, all right? So what I've done is I brought to you some pictures to show you what we really don't want to happen. Sometimes a tree will fall across it. I know we had word from the group that said that first complaint from the staff that you can't cut a tree. Well, I mean, this is not practical, and something like that would fall down. I'm sure management, along with the town council staff and others, would agree that the path needs to be cleared, but you don't need all these other things that you cut aside and then go off the trail and make another trail. So that's what I'm trying to show here. We want a trail that's usable by all, that shows conservation, that it's a nice place to go, but we don't want to abuse it. So, in the end, the management plan that's in existence today, that we are part of, depends on volunteers to do a lot of the work. It also includes our town staff, police, public works, those sort of things, to help manage this. And I can see that happening, especially on our section, what we're doing, town staff being very much involved. And what we're trying to do is provide a decent place for people to access, to enjoy something that was set aside. And I want to add one more thing. A lot of people don't realize this. They think this is old growth, but it's not. Kitty Hawk Woods was owned by a timber company back in the 1900s. And there's still folks around that remember this, so I was able to pull this together. But sometime between 1916 and 1918, Kitty Hawk Woods was logged from the sand dunes all the way to the sound. And that logging was carried to the sound by locomotives. They call it the old Loki track. There were two of them that run from the sand dunes all the way to the sound. And then out on the sound were built piers for the Loki track and the locomotive to pull the logs out, dump them in the water. They were rafted together and hauled to Elizabeth City. Kitty Hawk Woods has been logged twice since then. A second time by a different timber company that now owns it, and then again by some kind of a bootleg outfit that got in there and did some logging. They weren't supposed to. They were basically on private property. So this is not new. And one other thing, and I remember this, in the either late 40s or early 50s, a lumber company came in, a specialty company came in and logged all the dogwoods. They were mature dogwoods, and they logged them. And what they were logging them for, from what I can understand, my mother told me they were making net needles out of them, and Kip Tabb, who has researched this, told me they were also making bobbins. And Clifton Perry told me that they would make them into certain size slabs, and then I guess they do something else with them. And the reason they use dogwood is a closed, hard grain, and when you chill it down, then basically it's like a smooth surface, and that had some property they were looking for. And that dogwood harvesting extended into Southern Shores. I don't think those folks know that, but that's the way it is. So I just want to give you a little history to show that this is not old growth, but we'd like for it to become old growth for the current generation to pass on to the new generation. And some of the old folks, if you want to ask questions, that know about the old Loki track are still alive today. All right. That said, enough said. I'll leave that where it is, and you can fix it for me later. All right, council. I started that off in case each of you wanted to say something, but now we're in council talk. So, Jeff, let me start with you. Can I?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Gary, for walking and taking the trail with me. I really enjoyed it. Also, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go by and look at the bathhouse. Our town Public Works has done a fantastic job of some new improvements over there, and I'd like to thank them for that. It saves the town a lot of money, and which is passed on to the taxpayer. And also, the fire department, I've noticed that they were working hard all weekend, tearing down the building that they had told us about, and I'm sure that's going to be a big savings to us also. And also, I'd just like to thank the police department. I know that this week's been extremely busy, and thank you guys for keeping us safe. And that's it.
Like Jeff, I went by and looked at the bathhouse. It looks great. Willie and your staff, I'd like to thank you. You did save us a lot of money, and I appreciate what you did very much. At the March meeting, we took a vote on the Hurdle Street issue that we had before us, and I cast a negative vote. I'd just like to explain that vote. And I've also found out that Hurdle Street being a paper street, not everybody knew what a paper street was. So it's a street that's on paper, but it's not yet been developed. It is owned by the town. Is Hurdle Street an option for future parking? Yes, it is. But I believe we need to do a comprehensive study of our parking here in Kitty Hawk. I believe there are better areas. One I think we're going to discuss here later on tonight being Luke Street. I think Andy and Willie have already kind of started on their own looking for other options. There are options out there. And I'd just like to explain, Hurdle Street is there, but I think there are better and more cost-effective options out there. Public comment. I also spoke about this at the end of the last meeting. We've gone to one public comment period, and I think that's very appropriate. I was never a fan of the two public comments, one at the beginning and one at the end. The special meeting we had where the motocross bikers came and talked, we had the public comment period towards the beginning of the meeting. I really liked hearing what they had to say. I like to hear people's input. If people, citizens or public knows we're going to vote on something at this meeting, I think they have a right to speak their mind, to provide their input before we vote. I would just like to go on record saying I'm in favor of the public comment period being at the beginning of the meeting, not at the end, sticking to the 3-minute time limit we've got. I just think that's the right thing to do. And again, thank all staff for what you do. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, so you want to shift from the end to the beginning?
Yes, sir. I just think it's better for the public to be able to say what they have to say before we vote on something for that night.
And I get that, I do.
Yeah.
The reason we had two in the beginning we had two for the simple reason people didn't want to stay the
Right.
whole meeting.
Right.
That was one reason.
Right.
And the other reason was, if you speak at the end of the meeting and we've done something that they like or don't like, at least they have input. But if we don't have the second one at the end of the meeting, then they just go away. But I can do it either way. I don't care, but let's not get into that tonight until we hear from the others, and then we'll make a decision. All right, Lynn?
I just was stopped by that, the public comment issue. There are merits to having it in both places. But I don't know which is better. We need to have input from the folks and accommodate them, and if they don't want to stay for the meeting, that's their prerogative. I mean, they've spoken on an issue we have in front of us, and they don't want to stay around for the outcome of what they've said. I don't think we need to force them to stay. But it does give us an opportunity to know what people are thinking, which I think is very important. And I would like to not do anything with that tonight. I'd like to ponder on it for a period of time.
Okay.
Understand.
Just mentioning that, we do need to find some parking. I don't know the answer to that either, but I'm glad Willie and Andy are looking into that. And I've talked with them about it, and I have all the confidence that they will find some more parking. We may have to ultimately, down the road, address every option we have. Enough about that. The traffic's increasing. We have a lot of visitors in town, and I'm noticing that the streets have a lot more traffic. So everybody be careful out there and stay safe.
Thank you.
I'm done.
I don't really have a whole lot. Just want to thank everybody for all the hard work they've done, town staff. I know the first responders are going to have a long season. It's already, it's already started, so
Did they
stay
have a
safe
break?
on that. And bathhouse looks good. That's it for me this evening.
All right. I'm missing a sheet. What did I do with that? It's an important sheet for me. Yeah, I know. I'm getting ready to do that. Yeah. Huh. All right. Well, anyway, it was my cheat sheet. The next thing is public comment, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, we have something that I need to read into the record. Before I do, is there anyone here that wants to speak? Check the phone.
Is there anyone here that wishes to participate in public comment?
The record will reflect, the answer was no. Okay, the first one is talking about Luke Street parking. It's an email from Mr. Russ Erickson. And he said he'll be out of town, so he couldn't make the presentation, and he wanted this read at the town council meeting tonight. I live on the southwest corner of Luke and Lindbergh and have recently learned that the town is considering changing beach parking on Luke from parallel to angled. I would like my opposition to this change to be noted, as this change would increase density on the beach. Also, a lot of people walk to the beach on Luke Street, many with small children. Cars parked at an angle might not be able to see as well while backing out. Any improvements to the parking on Luke should include some sort of barrier to make vehicles continue to park parallel to the street, as some will park at an angle or double park side by side on heavy traffic days. There was also a second one from Emily Klutz, and she was also talking about car speeding and that sort of thing. So here, a couple of things. There's no plans at this particular time, during the rest of this year, frankly, to do anything on any of this parking. It's too late in the season. We've got too much on our plate. We're looking at police stations. We're looking at beach nourishment. There's just too much going on, and we're too close to the season. So nothing's going to happen this particular year, whatever might happen in the future. Four-way stop signs have been installed on several streets, Phonic and the like. And I'm told that four-way stop signs will be installed tomorrow at Luke Street. And if the police chief is listening, or if he is not, I'm going to ask the police officer attending to carry to him a recommendation, if council agrees, that with the exception of what is the one? Eckerd Street and East Kitty Hawk Road, maybe look at the rest of those cross streets to do a four-way stop sign. We've done it in several. There's only about 2 or 3 of them.
Yep.
And it would slow traffic down. It can't hurt anything other than make some people mad, and we already done that anyway. So everybody in agreement on that?
Yes, I do.
All right, will you take that to him, please? All right, thank you. Now, how did this happen that you even knew we were doing it? Well, we didn't know it was going to be surveyed, but it was. It was done in concert with the survey of Hurdle Street, which showed some definite places where people were impinging on town property. But this was surveyed because it's an odd duck. Luke Street has a history. It was a paper street, like Hurdle, and before my time, well before my time, it was turned into Luke Street for the express purpose of parking. To do that, they made it a full cross street, unlike what we did at Lillian Street, where we took the whole street and we made it into parking with diagonal parking and that sort of thing. Well, Luke Street was turned into a street, but when they built the street, as the survey shows, they shifted it south. So you have less berm on the south side and more berm to park on the north side. That way you could park parallel and be further off the road. So there's some history here. It was not a street, then it became a street for the express purpose of parking. And yes, indeed, there was pushback for that at the time too, and the record will show that. So there's no plan to do anything today. We know a little bit more about how the street is laid out, so if something in the future is considered, and four-way stop signs will be installed, I'm told, tomorrow, and we're going to look at doing it in other places. All right? Good. So that takes care of that one. The next one is canopies on the beach. Another email from Miss Jill Kramer. I'm reading this into the record at her request. I am a resident in Sea Dunes. Year after year, guests put up canopies and leave them up all week. I understand there is a law prohibiting this, and yet it is not monitored by the town or lifeguards. It is particularly troubling in July, usually the second and third week when there is a big family reunion of up to 75 to 100 people yearly that leave 5 to 6 canopies up for the entire week. I urge the town of Kitty Hawk to monitor this and take the canopies down and store them. The owners of these canopies should be fined. I cannot attend this meeting, but please read this into the meeting. All right. Some illumination. Last year was the first year we really stressed not leaving canopies on the beach. As a result, lifeguards do monitor. Public Works and Police Department will respond if needed. Last year was a profound difference. If the lifeguards see them laying out after they do their shift, they tag them, you can't do this. If the canopy is still up in the morning, then Public Work goes out, picks them up, takes them straight to the recycling center. They don't store them, they're gone. That's history, all right? So what you're asking for is already being done. We're just not into the season yet. But just to be sure, Willie went out, ran the beach. There's no canopies up yet, which is to be expected. And the lifeguards will come on Memorial Day, and things will get back to the way it was, and they'll start monitoring the way they did last year. So I don't quite know where Ms. Kramer's coming from as far as, well, she's ahead of the curve on this one. And I'll inject one other thing. 99% of the canopies opposite the dune condos are from dune inhabitants. All right. And I've read everything that needs to be read. And I believe now it's time to motion for adjournment.
We got to recess to another.
Oh,
Mr. Mayor, I
okay.
make a motion, we recess to Monday, April 26, 2021, 9 a.m. budget workshop.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or never none? Thank you. Now I got to find a piece of paper. This is